Sewer Authority for July 8th, 2020. I will take a motion to approve the minutes of last month's meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made, properly seconded. Any comments or questions on the minutes? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion passes unanimously. I thought I saw something here from Yardley Borough. I guess not. My mistake. Okay, with that said, it doesn't look like Phil's here yet. Rich, anything from the pump station committee?
Nothing.
Okay, with that said, Cheryl, you can take us through your stuff.
Okay. I hope everybody got all the meeting materials. Nothing unusual. Lower Makefield is current on their joint use payments. Let's see. And just a few days ago, we did get 2018's reconciliations from Marsville. So
We got 2018s?
2018.
Wow.
I didn't, I'm still going over everything, and I don't know whether I'm supposed to check the math and make sure everything looks good, or whether maybe Gilmore is supposed to get, because he sent me all the invoices associated with the figures. And
Well, are they giving us back money, or are they saying we're owing them more money?
well, the one that we pay, the operations number that we pay $50,000 per quarter,
Mm-hmm.
that came to $207,156. We paid for the year $200,000, so that leaves $7,156. So that's pretty close. But then there's the capital expenses that they, for their pump station repairs, and our portion of that is billed $121,424. So he gave me all the invoices to back that up and reports and everything, but I don't, since I've never done this before, I don't know whether I'm supposed to just go over it and then submit, we're not going to do it this month because I didn't have time to look at everything.
I think
But
you need,
next month it'll have to get paid, so.
I think you need to share that with Brian and possibly Alex.
Okay,
Dave, I recall reviewing that a while back, and I think Lower Makefield had done the same, and they had posed questions.
okay.
Craig Hucklebridge, I believe. So I think it then went back to Marshville, to their court to revise it accordingly. So yeah, I can, if you want to forward that across to me, I'll take a look at it.
All right, I'll do that. All right, so that's yeah, so that's the big news. And he said that 2019 should be following within a few months.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So
next month we'll have to do a requisition from the Bond Redemption and Improvement Fund, I think. And so we'll do all that next month once I'm satisfied with the numbers.
All right, and just a quick question on your operations administrator report. Shouldn't that be noted somewhere that we received that, or how does that get logged and ledgered? Or
But I will put it in there.
okay, when you pay it, I guess
Yeah.
you could do it then.
Yeah, next month I'll put it in.
I just wanted to note that we did discuss it this month at the meeting. That's all.
Okay. All right. So that concludes my report. We have a bill list to approve if you want to do that for $66,000. $610.16.
How much? I'm sorry.
$66,610.16.
You must have snuck one in on me because the total I'm looking at is 62,635.
I sent a revised, did you get the revised one today?
Wasn't
I sent
looking
a
for.
revised bill list out to everybody today.
All right, what's the new total now, please?
66,610.16.
Okay,
I had to add a few invoices on there. So I sent a revised one out today.
okay. Oh, yeah, I wasn't looking for it.
And does anybody have any questions on the accounts or any of the financial reports?
I've got a question on the bill list, Cheryl. On the
Okay.
first page, maybe I just went brain dead, but the third and fourth one down, third and fourth one down. The PAWC billing for 5238 for water usage. And then right below it is PAWC pump station water uses. Is the one's the office, the bathroom, or in the other?
Yeah, the one's pump station water usage. The other one shouldn't say water usage. The other one should say, the other one is what Pennsylvania American charges us for the file.
For the what?
For the meter readings. So we get meter reading bill from PAWC, and then we get water use for the pump station, a bill. So we get two bills from PAWC, one's for water use, one's for the files, for them reading the meters.
No, I didn't hear what you said last on that. One's for water and one's for what?
The files, what they read the meters for us, so they charge us.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay.
They read the meters for us? I thought they read the meters. I thought they read the meters so they can send their bill out.
They provide us with the files, so they charge us for that.
Okay, so what should that read? Just the file?
It should say, it shouldn't say water usage. It should say,
Okay. Anybody else got any questions on the bill list? With that said, I'll take a motion to accept the bill list for 66,610.16.
So moved.
Aye.
Second.
Motion's been made, properly seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passes. Okay. Ryan, you're up.
I guess to start, Cheryl, I actually had a question. I know I got brought up last meeting, the pump station contract with OCC.
Yes.
Did you
Yeah,
reach out to them?
I gathered all the emails together but I just didn't get in contact with Tom Yeager, so I will do that. I just didn't get that done, sorry.
Okay, no problem. Other than that, the joint use sewer project, I'll let Blake talk about that regarding the easements. Look over Lane, the two homeowners that had driveway repairs, they got quotes that came in earlier this week. They were $625 and $600 respectively. So that seemed reasonable. So I gave them the go ahead to have a contractor do that work and then submit their receipts for reimbursement.
All right.
It's fairly quiet. Nothing regarding Morrisville, and obviously special meeting last week regarding Lower Makefield sale, but I don't have anything else really to report tonight.
Just to follow up, I'm sure everybody knows that vote has been postponed for 90 days until one of the September meetings. I think that would have been accomplished anyway, regardless of the lawsuit from the one supervisor. But It's neither here nor there. I do wish to thank Alex and Brian for being on that call. Alex especially. I think it was very insightful. Some of the folks that were on that call to listen from our perspective, which I think Alex did very well at representing. I know back in January, February, we discussed the possibility of another evaluation of our system. And at that time, it was decided that we were going to wait. And I just want to put it out there. I have no qualms which way we go, whether we get an evaluation or not, but we like to be prepared. And if the general consensus is to reconsider the evaluation, some of the things that I will mention is that evaluation was from 2001. I think it was for $4.2 million. And a lot of sewage has gone down the pipe since then, as all the floods that we had in 4, 5, and 6, and the rehabilitation and remediation between the river and the canal. So just food for thought. The comment that I mentioned to the borough council on that call was that, you need to start thinking about if we get a knock on the door. We meaning the authority, and we meaning the borough government representatives. And whether it comes or not, it doesn't really matter to me. If someone new takes over, I'm sure we can work with the current contract, and but that's neither here nor there. It's just food for thought. I don't look to do anything, as far as mandating we get this done before the end of the September meeting of the Lower Makefield Board of Supervisors. I'd just like everybody to think about it a little bit more. That's all. And if you've already reconsidered that and said, you know what, we don't need an evaluation, that's fine with me.
Does anybody know what Yardley Borough really wants to do? Do they really want a regional authority? Do they understand the cost involved with that?
They meaning who? Someone in the government, or?
Yeah, Yardley Borough Council. Didn't we go through all this? How much it would cost to be part of a regional? We'd have to participate in the building of a new plant, therefore be responsible for maintenance.
I'm not too sure, other than Bria and somebody else who might have been there. I'm not sure they were taking copious notes, and I'm really not too sure.
We were content to go in as a bulk customer at what, 5%, 6%? Correct me if I'm wrong. And keep our money in our pocket rather than join this regional, that our little share of it, we wouldn't have much of a voice anyway.
Well,
Alex, am I off on that? Wasn't that our thinking?
I think we're still playing the what if scenario of if and when Lower Makefield ever sells, and if and when whoever buys them is going to consider offering making an offer to YBSA. And I don't know, just thinking out loud, I just don't see Lower Makefield going for a regional authority. I mean, does the borough understand this, Carl? I'm going to take a guess and say no, but I don't know what they think.
Yeah, Dave, I agree. Carl, I don't think they really know much of anything about it. Certainly none of what you mentioned as far as the actual ins and outs or costs involved with the various alternatives.
And the responsibility.
I think they just, and it's a little surprising, with Bria having been in a couple of the meetings, but I think really they heard that Lower Makefield had actually taken bids, and they kind of picked their head up and said, oh, gee, I guess we should be concerned about this, and we should have a say in this, as if
We gone over a year. Over a year, they said they had this system evaluated, and then last summer they started getting bids on it.
Well, and trying to look at it, understand what council's thinking is. I think they heard us saying that Yardley really can't draw any conclusions or make any decisions, and really Morrisville too, until we find out what Lower Makefield's doing because of the share they have and the what you know their role in whatever the resolution is. So I think we've all been saying, well, we have to wait and see what Lower Makefield does with the sale before we really go forward with them. I think the Borough Council kind of twisted that to think, okay, well, now that they got bids, Lower Makefield should be coming to us to talk about what we're going to do. That's not how we expect it to work. They're going to decide whether or not they want to sell on their own. They care less what Yardley thinks, and they're not coming back to Yardley to talk about that.
No, you'd be waiting a while for them to get them to ever come and say anything.
Well, and you know what?
Takes 6
I don't
months.
blame them. I mean, it's their decision, and they're not going to go to Yardley and say, "Gee, fellas, do you think we should sell our sewer system?" Just like you guys might not go to Lower Makefield if the shoes are on the other foot and ask them permission. But the point is, I think Yardley Council decided, oh, well, they're at a decision point. They should be coming to us and talk. And it ain't that kind of decision point, I don't think.
They're not really talking people. They kind of do what they want when they want. And
Well, again, in fairness, I mean, we can hate Lower Makefield all we want, but the reality is that whether or not they sell is their decision. It has nothing to do with Yardley. And then we're just waiting to find out if they're going to do it or not. And then whether it's them at the end when the dust settles or whether it's PA American or whoever, then we got to try to work with them in Morrisville going forward. But
Maybe
somehow council got the idea that Lower Makefield should be coming to Yardley and asking, well, what do you think about these bids? What do you think we should do? And that ain't happening.
yeah, I mean, although it was effective, they did stop the vote.
Nah,
No,
the lawsuit stopped the vote, Carl.
Yeah, yeah.
Weigh in on the valuation question. I
It
mean,
was
that's-
Go ahead, Blake. I'm sorry. So, did you talk to Bob about this, Blake? What does he have a say on all this? I'd like to get inside his head, see what he thinks.
But the first thing I was going to comment on was the valuation question. It would have to be a market valuation, and it's really the Borough Council, Borough of Yardley, that would have to do that. That's if they were considering trying to value it for a sale, that's their responsibility. Bob and I have talked about it. It's very surprising that Lower Makefield did not include Yardley since they're so intertwined. But Alex is right. There's no obligation to do that. They're trying to get as much money as they can and be done with the sewer system. And, maybe Yardley Borough should have or should now approach them and say, what are your plans if this is sold? How does this involve Yardley Borough? But that hasn't taken place.
If I understood what you just said, Blake, you're saying that Yardley Borough government, Borough Council should contact Lower Makefield to
Saying it's an option of theirs. If they're concerned, they've finally, awakened after a year or more, actually more than a year.
right.
That's their, if they're concerned about what's going to happen to it's their authority. Technically they created it. They would have to sell the system if anybody did. They should be involved, but it sounds like they just kind of came out of a deep sleep here, and they realized, well, maybe we better think about doing something.
Well, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe this request in the letter that they sent Lower Makefield to postpone it and, give them the opportunity, give the four municipalities the opportunity to discuss it further. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say, well, maybe that's the foot in the door with Lower Makefield to discuss specifically YBSA. But
Yeah.
who knows?
What Bob and I talked about a couple times in the last few months is, our client is the authority. It's not Yardley Borough, and unfortunately, the authority doesn't have much input or influence or power to what happens here. It's really Yardley Borough that has to make decisions.
Well, we can't stop the sale. If we don't want to be sold, we can say, no, we don't want to be sold, right?
Well,
The borough can.
We can't stop them from selling Lower Makefield.
No, we can't stop them from selling, or if we can stop Yardley Borough, if we just wanted to, from stopping them from selling the authority. That's the
Well, that's
one
not what
power we
Blake's
do
saying.
have, I
No.
think.
They'd have to cross, in order, Tom's got a point there with regard to, we've got a bond outstanding. If the borough wanted to sell the system, they would have to go through several steps. One is to retire debt that the authority has, then they'd have to collapse the authority and sell the system. So, Tom, you're right. They can't just snap their finger, but we can't stop them from moving in that direction. If they, crossed all, did all the things they had to do, they could sell the authority, and the authority itself could have, or the sewer system and the authority would have no, could have no influence on that.
I'm not so sure about that. I remember Jim McNamara talking about another authority here in Bucks County that didn't want to be sold. And they essentially frustrated the municipality from selling it.
Tom,
Jim was in a pretty good position. I don't know the specific authority, so I can't tell you which it is, but I could try to find out.
Well,
Tom, you might be talking
I
about,
think there is some.
Tom, I'm sorry. I'm guessing you might be referring to Warminster,
Might be.
where the township explored selling their water and sewer. The authority put up a stink, and they basically used rallied public opinion to try to stall the process. But I think the facts of the matter were that, not to say that couldn't happen or be effective, but legally, the authority had no power at all. It was just a matter of trying to get the residents stirred up and enough to scare the supervisors into thinking they might not get reelected. So that's the example that I know of that might be the one that you're thinking.
Yeah.
Stop it. I recall, one way or another.
The main legal impediment is the doing away with any debt. In other words, that prevents the sale, the collapse of an authority and the sale. You've got to deal with the debt. So there are some hurdles, but legally, the authority board has no power to stop that process.
If I'm hearing you correctly, Blake, what you're saying is all my suggestions to have this system reevaluated, it shouldn't really be falling on us. We should strongly suggest, or not suggest, borough council to do what they want to do since they're the one in control.
I think they have to get, I think they have to get more involved as to what they want to happen to this sewer system, because, right now, really, there's no control over what, could happen to Yardley, whether we end up, the sewage is going to go somewhere. And what I see is the possibility of being tied to Morrisville as being the only alternative.
Mm-hmm.
And if that occurs, Lower Makefield goes elsewhere. That's a much smaller authority, a much smaller system with a big new plant.
I don't see the northern end of Lower Makefield though being rerouted to anything different than via Yardley to Morrisville. I just can't fathom the cost of that would be astronomical. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, Alex.
No, that's right. And I think to your, to the initial question about the valuation, the possible sale. I understand, we've talked about this before. I understand the idea of not wanting to get caught flat-footed, and maybe that offer is imminent. If Lower Makefield sells, whoever buys is going to want to purchase Yardley as well, based on that relationship. But that's fine. But the idea of proactively seeking evaluation, I think, as we talked about, as we're talking about tonight, yes, that should involve council, because ultimately it's their decision. And at the same time, if we suggest it to council or council goes ahead and does it, are we sending a message to them, or are they sending a message to others that they're interested in selling the system? You know, it's one thing to say, well, we just want to know what it's worth in case, but if you go out and actually pay money to a consultant to get evaluation, you're basically sending a message saying, I'm opening the door to selling the system.
Mhm.
Not sure that that's what we want to do, or that what, you know, council would want to do.
All right, so what should we be concentrating on right now? Just forget about all that and just get ready to do business with a new partner and worry about our own selves.
Make sure everything keeps flowing downhill.
Keeping the system operating, and we have contracts in place that are binding. So,
Which is another point that I was thinking about, but didn't want to bring it up. But since we were having this, I think, a very good conversation, the idea of continuing with the progress in the rehabilitation projects. The majority of me says the best thing to do is to just keep plugging forward regardless of what happens with Lower Makefield. And just again, food for thought. I don't think we should put anything on hold. I don't think we should double time anything, but I think that we should continue plugging along on the timeline that, you know, our engineers have put in place and recently updated, and just keep plugging away.
Well, I have a concern on that. That, you know, go along, if the sale happens in the middle of, you know, the project, who's going to end up paying? We don't want to be caught in the middle between Lower Makefield and whoever buys the system saying, you know, they should pay, you know, you should pay it.
I'm not too sure that could happen legally because because Lower Makefield would have an outstanding debt.
whoever buys the Lower Makefield system has done their, you know, due diligence, and it's also been evaluated by that firm on behalf of Lower Makefield, and they identified, you know, all debts, all contracts, all obligations that the purchaser was going to be assuming. And one of them is, you know, the relationship with Yardley.
Right, but you're doing, you know, it's like in midstream, who's responsible for this payment versus that payment? I mean, just like we had with the transportation agreement for years. It was, you know, who was responsible for what payment.
I think
I'm a little bit wary of you know, changing horses in the middle of the stream, I have to say.
Tom, I wouldn't
That's my
agree.
concern.
I understand your concern. I wouldn't compare it to what you went through with Lower Makefield on the improvements, because that was a different type of a debate. It was the same parties just not agreeing on who wanted to pay for what. In this case, I think, you know, we all know what agree on the legal obligation of the purchaser. And I think probably the timing of it, like you said, if you're in between payments, who pays the last bill, the next bill, what have you, or where does it pick up? I'm assuming that would get handled, contractually in the sale agreements and at the closing of the deal. But the purchaser is well aware, as Blake said, through their due diligence of all the obligations, and will be going in with eyes open of the
Well,
obligation.
how about us going in eyes open? Maybe we should contact Lower Makefield and see about what's in the contract with regard to the assumption of those, you know, that obligation by whoever the purchaser is, so that we're protected. I think that would be a good idea for Blake to contact, or Bob to contact Lower Makefield and say, hey, what's in this contract, so we make sure we get paid.
I would think that all of this is protected under the transportation agreement.
Yeah, Tom, I would say that
you know, there's an obligation. The question is, who's going to pay it? And if they're pointing fingers at each other, you could be sitting in a situation similar to the transportation agreement, where you owe it, and we're sitting there going,
I'm surprised to hear an attorney tell me that you can't trust what's in the contracts.
Anyway,
You know, they're looking out for their interest, David. I'm looking out for our interests.
Okay, I hear you.
Okay?
I hear you.
So I think that, we should make sure, and I don't think it would hurt for Blake or for Bob to contact these guys and say, what's in this agreement, to say who's paying this, if we switch in midstream here, who's paying what?
we could do that, but they have no obligation to tell us what's in any agreement until it becomes an agreement. They're negotiating with eventually they're going to be negotiating with the successful bidder, and under the Right to Know Act, you can't obtain draft agreements and copies of agreements that aren't yet agreements, and they have no obligation.
You can ask them for that portion of the agreement. The worst they can say is no. The best they can say is, yes, here it is spelled out in black and white for that portion of the agreement.
I'll be glad to make the phone call, but I can tell you what they're going to say is we don't have an agreement yet, and frankly, it's none of your business until we do, but I'll be glad to make the phone call. I'm trying to think of the solicitor's name, David True, who I would contact and find out what he's willing to tell me.
Okay.
But I'm quite sure he's going to say whoever buys the system is responsible for obligations, financial and contractual.
Okay, but more importantly, it's if we're in the middle of this thing and the deal goes through and we're switching horses.
Okay.
That's where my concern is.
Understood.
Okay?
Yep.
All right, thank you.
You'd be lucky if you hear back from them. That's my opinion. You'd be lucky.
Well,
It takes forever to ever hear anything
No
from
harm
them.
in asking.
I will make that call. I know David.
It's like going up to a pretty girl. There's no harm in asking.
As long as you like getting slapped.
Yeah.
That's right, you could, but hey,
Again.
that's the worst that's gonna happen.
Okay, good discussion. Anybody else got any other comments? I didn't mean to stray from that. Now I gotta figure out where the hell we were.
Taking a motion for adjournment.
We're working on it, Rich. Do you have anything else, Blake?
We haven't gotten to me yet, but
We haven't gotten to you. I'm sorry. Brian, Alex, do you have anything else?
I'm finished for tonight.
I thought you were. You went-
And
I
I couldn't
went off
think
on a
we'd
tangent.
I led you into that. So
I went off on a tangent. I apologize, but I still think they were two good discussions.
tangents are good.
With that said, Blake, you're up.
Yes. I sent something over to you all about 5 o'clock this afternoon because I just got the appraisal report and, broken down by benchmark appraisals per easement. I haven't really looked at it yet, but they took each easement, whether it's a permanent or a temporary construction, and they've provided a value. I haven't read the report, but you should have received it in your email about an hour ago, I guess. It looks like the total amount is $118,000.
How much? I'm sorry.
The total amount of their valuation of the easements looks to be about $118,000 for the, all the permanent and all the temporary construction. I haven't looked at them individually, and I guess, Brian, you can take a look at them to see what you think. Some are pretty low, and there's a couple that are, seem up there a bit. I see one for $15,000, so.
Hey, Phil.
But that,
Hello, everyone.
Blake. Oh, there's Phil.
go.
Good evening, Phil.
Anyway, take a look at that. And I'll let Brian and Alex take a look. And depending on where whatever comments or input we have on that, we would move ahead with including to property owners, and include the easement valuation that the authority is willing to pay for the individual easements.
Well, last month we talked about allowing this firm or asking this firm to do it for us if they could have it within 4 weeks, which obviously they met that deadline. So I'll turn this question over to Brian. Will you be able to evaluate these and give us your yay and nay and comments before next month's meeting?
Yeah, I can do that. I'll go with Blake. I'll take a look at it and see if seems to be in line. I mean, I'm no appraiser, but could probably, look at the different properties and the lay of the land and get a sense of, if it makes sense.
We're just looking for some guidance here. That's
Yep.
For what it's worth, first impression is that it's more or less in line with what we've seen in similar situations with other projects, but that's just first blush.
okay.
I would say that as well, that the most of it looks to be this type of easement.
Okay. Anything else, Blake?
No, I believe that's all I have.
All right. And Brian, this would have been covered under old business. You have no other updates for the sewer system improvements?
No, I don't. Not for that, no.
Okay. With that said, I'll go back to Mr. Smythe. Good evening. How are you?
Phil, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm having problems with this app. I think that it's updated and different now than last time.
Yeah, I had to admit you to the meeting like 3 or 4 times already.
Sorry about that. I know
Yeah, no worries.
it would get stuck and then I'd leave and try and come back in. I never thought I would long for an actual meeting.
Oh, Rich just fainted.
Why the hell not?
Rich just fainted.
I would have never put money on wanting to sit in Borough Hall meeting.
You are no longer Rich's friend, Phil. You got anything from the pump station, Phil?
Yes, I did manage to service the generator since the last meeting. All the filters, with the exception of the air filter, I've got to track one down the line because it's that gigantic air filter. It's very expensive. But flows are changed. I flushed the cooling system and cleaned the radiator again. It was kind of plugged up on the outside. So everything's up to snuff now and it's been serviced for the next year or so.
Good.
Everything else seems to be okay there.
No more problems with the VFDs from last month's report?
No, I had some trips, but I think it's related to weather when we get thunderstorms and stuff. Those things do not like fluctuations in the power grid.
I was just going to say, over the last month, we've had a lot of burps in the power.
Yep.
Didn't go out all the way, but it burped a few times.
Yes. And that just seems to be, these Allen Bradley units are, seem to be a lot more touchy than some of the other ones that I've dealt with. The grinder seems to be okay. I don't think we had any trips since the last meeting, so that was good. And so that could have been related to the power grid fluctuation as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the grinder may also not like that.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else seems to be okay.
All right. Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Rich, you got anything?
No.
Michael? Just shake your head. You don't have to unmute yourself.
He is sleeping.
Oh. Thomas, anything more?
Nothing from me, Dave.
Thank you, Carl. Carol, you got anything to share?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay. Well, then I will thank everybody for joining us again. As of right now, we'll be doing the same thing next month. Everybody stay safe.
Make a motion to prolong the meeting a little while longer.
Denied.
Kidding.
And can I have a couple people come sign checks for me?
I'll come in tomorrow around noon.
Okay,
I'll come in too.
all right, thank you.
I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor? Oh, seconded, Tom
Seconded.
seconded it. All those in favor say aye. Everybody
Aye.
have a
Against.
motion? No, don't listen to that. It's a technical error. Motion passes unanimously. I'll see you all next month. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Good night.